Following a string of summer victories, most recently at Second Manassas, in early September 1862, General Robert E. Lee seeks to maintain his initiative. He marches into Maryland with the hopes of delivering a crushing blow to the Union and bringing about a peaceable conclusion to the war. Union General George B. McClellan followed in pursuit with one key piece of information, Special Orders 191.
And McClellan does often get a bad rap, and because there's some quotes of him being slow and Lincoln and him always butted heads. So if Lincoln doesn't like him, that kind of means the rest of the nation doesn't like him. So that really tacked on a lot of hardship for his entire life.
Lee begins his march into Maryland, makes his battle plans at Frederick. McClellan will also come into Frederick, and two Union soldiers will find a lost copy of Lee's battle plans titled Special Order 191. In the order, it detailed that he would split his forces, send Jackson to go take Harper's Ferry. Lee would go north to Hagerstown. The Confederates will try to cross South Mountain, but they are pushed back by Union forces, and Lee is forced to retreat, leading to the Battle of Antietam.
Unwilling to relinquish the initiative, General Robert E. Lee stays in Maryland, just north of the Potomac River, in the town of Sharpsburg. What would follow would have ripple effects for the remainder of this Civil War.
Lincoln was facing pressure from not only those Democrats to end the war, but as well as abolitionists to change the narrative of the war. He would make a draft of what would become the Emancipation Proclamation, but he was warned by his cabinet, do not submit this until we win at least one battle.
Early in the morning of September 17, 1862, George B. McClellan and Robert E. Lee face off in the bloodiest day in American history. The night before, Generals Hooker and Mansfield ford the creek. As the battle opens, Hooker and Mansfield advance on Jackson's left. They are met with severe resistance. By 7 a.m., Jackson's left flank is beginning to falter. John Bell Hood then counterattacks, forcing Hooker back. Mansfield then advances in a Union counterattack, which pushes back the Confederates. However, Mansfield is killed and Hooker is wounded, leaving the charge leaderless. A single brigade of Sumner's Corps, headed by John Sedgwick, is met with a ferocious counterattack. Though Jackson's flank bent throughout the morning and sporadic fighting would continue, he would hold. In the late morning, General Richardson's brigade attacks on what has been called the Sunken Road. As more troops are fed into the fight, a Confederate officer mistakenly calls the retreat. D.H. Hill organizes a counterattack and once again pushes the Union back. By 1:30, 5,600 men are dead or wounded in the small area which has become known as the Bloody Lane. To the south, General Burnside has been instructed to conduct a diversionary attack. He is told to hold until ordered to move. These orders would not reach him till 10 a.m. He divides his forces, sending a division to the south at Snavely's Ford. His other divisions will be funneled across a narrow bridge, which comes to be known as Burnside's Bridge. 2 attacks are repulsed throughout the morning. In his third attack, Burnside's men are able to breach the bridge. At the same time, his division to the south is able to cross the creek. Lee's right flank is in grave danger. At 3 p.m., Burnside organizes an attack on Lee's right flank and begins to push them back into Sharpsburg in an attempt to cut off Lee's retreat. With things looking grim for the Confederates, General A.P. Hill's division arrives on the field in the nick of time, after a 17-mile forced march. Hill's division smashes into Burnside's corps, forcing a full retreat and ending the fighting for the day.
McClellan would, of course, be chastised at the end of the battle for not chasing after a retreating Lee. So much was at stake here that it just was not worth the risk.
The Battle of Antietam was fought in September of 1860. When the fighting ends, both armies are left absolutely disheveled and they're forced to recuperate greatly afterwards. The Battle of Antietam is so important to the Civil War because it is a turning point. As Abraham Lincoln releases the Emancipation Proclamation, he is changing the tone and the meaning of the war. When it first started, it was just about keeping the Union together. But after he releases the Emancipation Proclamation, it's about completely eradicating slavery. With the releasing of the Emancipation Proclamation, we also have the creation of the U.S. Colored Troops, and this will allow over 5,000 freed black people from the northern states to enlist in the United States Army.
There was political turmoil in Washington. It was Lee's chance to end the war, and it was also Lincoln's chance to turn the message of the war. He is now given the morale he needs to back the Emancipation Proclamation. This has the immediate effect of preventing foreign intervention by Britain and France.
One of the most important things about the Battle of Antietam is the political implications both before and after. Before, you have McClellan and Lincoln at odds with each other about how the Army's supposed to be run. Most importantly, McClellan has a political aim in being general of the Army of the United States. He and Lincoln being at odds with each other was not mere coincidence. Lincoln was a Republican. McClellan was a Northern Democrat. They were both politically not aligned with each other. So for Lincoln, in order to enact the Emancipation Proclamation, he needed a victory. The person to give him that victory was his political enemy, George B. McClellan. So Antietam ended up being the perfect opportunity for Lincoln to launch the Emancipation Proclamation, because McClellan's failure to pursue Lee made McClellan look like an inept general. Additionally, the propaganda that Lincoln was able to spread further dampened McClellan's image. But Lincoln was able to look like a hero, look like strong, in order to keep out the European powers and to enact the Emancipation Proclamation that would change the entire flavor of the war.